Start with the Swedes in America, so you see where my family came from, and then we'll get them over into Sweden. I'm a fourth generation on my Swedish side. My ancestor John, who was named really Johannes in Sweden, came in 1870, and he was the last of 6 children as adults that came to America from that family. So the third generation, let me introduce my uncle. First, the oldest is on the left-hand side here. And let's see if not working for me. They're all standing, is Robert Ewalt. And on the other end is my uncle Evan Ewalt. And I'll go down to the floor. The only girl in the picture is the third child, is Mabel. And my dad is standing next to Evan, and the youngest brother is Paul. And there we go. And so they make up the third generation. My grandparents were William, and he was Ferdinand, William Ferdinand. He's the first child born to a Swedish couple in America. And my dad is William Beeman. They liked, they were Methodists in religion, and they liked Feeman, Pastor Feeman, and so they named my dad after him. And then so my dad, so I'm the third William, but not the third. I'm William Moore Ewalt with my mother's maiden name. And I gotta get to the right spot for that. Yeah. Iva Darlene Ewalt, she was a Heaton, and Heaton is Heaton, but her roots go back to England, and her forefather Nathaniel Heaton came over in 1634 to Boston. And we go back 2 generations there. So Nathaniel goes back 10 generations, and then I know 2 generations in England. They came from Lincolnshire. And here is their wedding picture. They're young. This is 1905. My grandmother had to retire. She was a single school teacher in a one-room school in Bureau County, Illinois. And so when she got married, as was the case, nobody let the women continue to serve in the schools. Now, this is a 1930 picture of 4 Ewalt families together. I should say that all the Ewalts in this family were 6 children, adults, and they came over, and they all came to Illinois. But this is 4 of them that are gathered for this early 1930s family reunion. So this is Ewalt's plus the significant other. And so you'll see my grandparents are in the middle here. Mabel is here, and you can see tall Uncle Evan is there. And down in the row over here is Robert. And my dad and Paul, I think, were back at the farm because they thought, well, they're a little young. We don't want them to, we don't want to travel with them and have them scream, "When are we here yet?" So they weren't there. The interesting thing that just happened, we went on a trip to the Netherlands and England, tracing my pilgrimage from the Mayflower. And so there was a group of 20 people, it was about 24 people, and some lady said, "Well, do you know Morton Ewalt?" "Yeah, I know Morton." And there were 2 ladies and one of the ladies' daughter. There were 3 ladies, and they knew Morton Ewalt. Well, this is Morton Ewalt's house, and this is the backyard where the picture was taken. And there's Morton and his wife, and this is their son David. And I'm not going to tell you who all the others, they're just Ewalts. I mean, it's enough on the personal side to tell you that. But, I mean, what a small world.
How did she know them? How did she know?
They knew, because this house is in Havana, Illinois, which is a town in Peoria County. And so they lived there. And the interesting thing was that they had a house that had a bowling alley and a roller skate rink.
Oh,
And so they knew that was etched into their mind, and they knew that story.
oh my
And
goodness.
so it was fascinating to have that happen.
Were those commercial enterprises or just their personal recreation?
No,
space?
it was a business.
Oh.
I also know that at one point he was a grocer, and I got a picture of his storefront. I know I've got something about the house and stuff, but I don't have a picture that I've come across yet. Well, these are the immigrants here. The immigrants are, as I said, John and Johannes, and his wife. His wife is Christina Sophia, and they met in the United States.
Oh.
He and the family come from the land Christianstad, and the church is where you're identified, because in Sweden, let's say with 1600, you originally have the one church, the Catholic Church. Well, what happens is the King of Sweden decides that he wants to be a Lutheran, and it's going to be a state church. It's a Lutheran. All churches are Lutheran. That's the only authorized religion. And so when that happens, all the previously Catholic churches are now in the Lutheran hands. So what happens is there was a lot of whitewash put into the existing churches, covering designs and things in the churches. And I was also told that there were fabrics and other things. Some people took the fabrics out of the church to protect them for future. And so what I wanted to do was see the churches, because really everything revolves around the churches. The records are state records. And so I'll go into what those records are, but they're a fountain for genealogists. And on my first trip, we were just getting acquainted with, and we went and saw churches outside, took pictures from the outside of churches. But most of the churches you couldn't get into because, in today's age of things, they have to be locked up and secured. And it was the second time that we went to Sweden, and I met online cousins. And from there, we made appointments to spend time with cousins. And, well, what do you want to do? Well, I want to go see the churches. And it was sort of like, their reaction was like the reaction that we have when we have people come here. You show them that, you think you've seen everything, and so when you go with somebody else and you see it, it really enhances you personally, like locally here. And that's what happened with them. They saw a number of churches. They didn't know some of the history that I was looking at, and what made it even more special was the fact that in the last few years they have taken cloths and everything, dipped it in bread and water, and they have removed the whitewash. And so I've got pictures of the churches, and I've opened it to the beginning of the churches there, that you can see there's decoration, and it's just amazing that has survived underneath that for you to see. Some of it is, a little lighter, but it's there. And so it's a fascinating thing to see. But on the family note here, that's my grandfather. He's the firstborn in Brownstown in Peoria County. And they moved around a little bit in the early 1870s. And so his younger brother's here, and then we've got two daughters here that they all have children, so I've got cousins. And the only thing that's a sad note is that Eula May died when she was not quite 2 years old. And she was originally buried in Princeton County, or in Bureau County, in a small cemetery. But they moved after the death of the parents. They moved her grave to be in the same location in Lee County, Illinois, which is just over the border. And basically, William you know, his family stayed in Bureau County in a little town called Ohio, Illinois.
Oh,
And it's like a village of 500 people. And that's where my parents met. Well, they went through school together. My dad was a year ahead of my mother. And then this brother stayed in Bureau County, and this one went to Washington State. And then the two girls got married, and then and one of them is the mother of Ben Lewis, who first put together this. It was my first experience of getting information on my ancestors. And this was produced by him in 1981. He was doing this before there was the computer working. There was no, you know, and he did all this. And it is amazing to me how much he got right. Got a few things wrong, but considering all the work that he did, I'm not going to worry about that. But I will pass that around. The interesting thing is that he only did it on the father's side. He only did it on John's side. He didn't get any information about Sophia. And so I was interested in, when I retired, that I wanted to add, and I wanted to prove him. And I proved everything that he did. But I wanted to look at, you know, my great-grandmother. And so I'll be showing you things about that in the future here in this call. Yes, you have a question?
Before you go off of that screen there, I see the spelling is different in the last name on that gravestone. On the daughter's gravestone.
Yeah, it's got,
Did they change it, or is that an error?
yeah, in Ulamay, they've got it with a D at the end.
Yeah.
In Sweden, W's and T's aren't major players in their vocabulary. And I'll talk about Swedish vocabulary in a little bit. And so, Sven Ewalt, the father of all these children come to America, he was I've seen it written with a V or a W, but the D is what was used for him. But I'll explain why that's sort of strange too.
a quick question again. Now, was she from Sweden as well? You said they met in the America. She was from Sweden?
They met in America. He came in 1870. She came in 1868.
She gave
And if I'm wrong, we'll find that out later. I do something else here. But it's, her last name was Peterson. And actually in Sweden, she was Peter's daughter. That's how they say it. It's Peter, so she's got Petersdottir.
Okay.
And we'll see that. I mean, basically, this is a better system, you know, for what happens in recording. I mean, the way the Swedish did it was your father's first name became your last name. And so her, you know, and so the surname changes all the time.
Oh, man.
But the thing of it is, in their records, your birth date and your baptism date are in the records. And when they go to give information, they always use your birth date.
Okay.
And so it's an, it's an easy system to work through.
Track, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now so here's the six. So Ingrid, she never had a deed. This is what how she was in the records. She came in 1850. The story is, and this is told in that book, in the yellow pamphlet book, is that she came over because people she was working for, they have young children, and so she was taking care of the young children, and they brought her over to Boston in 1850, and then she made her way to Illinois. And then she met a fellow Swede, Abraham Sandborg, and married him, and they went from Illinois to Kansas to live. And then the next to come was Esau, and he comes in 1867, and he marries Anna Olson. And he joins, basically there's going to be 3 of these are going to end up in Bureau County. Well, Esau is not one of them. He stays in Peoria. The next one is Elias Ewalt, and he marries Annalisa Soburn, who is a widower. And the interesting thing is he married her in 1864, and within a month or two of the marriage, he goes back to Sweden, because he's going to go back and he's going to get the 2 youngest children, Emilia and Tilson. And they will come back in 1866. They will come back with Elias to Peoria. And so she's a widower. Her husband had brought them to New York, and then they went to Chicago, and from there they went to Peoria. And he joined the Union Army and served in the Civil War. And he was walking back from Mississippi with his fellow soldiers, and he got sick and he died there. And so she was a widower with a child, but she marries Elias. And Emilia, she marries Mons Johnson, and she's in Bureau County too. So Esau lives in the town that I grew up in, Walnut, Illinois, and Emilia lived in Princeton, the county seat, and Tilson, who was brought by Elias, he's the only one to marry a non-Swede. It's Pauline Vogel, and she was from France. Her family line was from there, but she was born in the United States. And then there's my ancestor, who comes in 1870, and in 1872 he gets married. And so those are the family. I will say that there was some sadness in the Swen Ewalt family, because in 42, a pair of twins, daughters, were born. The one died the day that they were born, and the other one died a few days later. And so there's two that are documented in the family.
Now, all of these brothers and sisters, this is all brothers and sisters?
This is, yeah, this is the 6 Ewalts that came to America.
So the older brother went back and brought the 2 younger
Yeah.
children, okay.
Now, the interesting thing about, I mentioned that we were only 4 families that were at that 30s. So, Ingrid's children were in Kansas and stayed in that area. Now, the other interesting thing about Wilson, he stayed in Peoria for a long time and was a very successful businessman. But his daughter was artistic and very good. And so they decided, and this wasn't until the 1890s, that they would go to New York because she could get art teaching there. And so he gets a very good job and works in New Jersey, close to New York City. And so the family is out east, and I've made contact with descendants from that line, and I've also made contacts that I'll show you about here in a minute. Well, talking of churches, this is a church that I didn't know about for a long time because I didn't have Swen's story as far as where he came from at time of his birth, and so it was when I found that information. This is Hallerberg, and you'll see that written in some future slides here. But we went to the church, and they had a special service, and we went out into the back, into the bushes there, and they had a small service there for that because it was a holy day.
It was a holy day.
Yeah. And so we had that, and then we went into the church and had a service that was very nice. And they had a building that's would be on the side. Let's see, get this. I think this it's over near the trees back there. Is a nice hall, and so we sat down for that. I picked up 2 books going there, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But they had 4 musicians that did a wonderful concert, and that's one of the things that really I see that happens with the churches today in rural Sweden. In the summer, those are places where they have activities besides the church service where people can congregate and have fun.
Community centers, yeah.
Yeah. And so the 2 books I picked up, this is what's called the Nope, and so this is the basically birth and baptism. And so these are my ancestors I put here are ones that are my ancestors. And then they have, let's see, I didn't check for marriages, but didn't have time to put the things in for that. But these are the ancestors that died and were buried. And so these are the records, and these come from the church records. But they put this book is in Swedish, but you can basically the names there, the dates are there. You pretty much get that information, and then they'll say how old they were if they're on deaths. But it's really neat to have this in the family hands, and just really enjoyed doing that. And so what happens is Sven, when he was born, his name was Sven Ingleson, because his father was Ingla Johnson. And again, that's how you switch the names. And so how do we get to Ewalt? Well, he gets into the Swedish Army. He's a hussar. He's a cavalry soldier. And so he was posted first in his parish here, but he went on to a couple parishes, and then in 1824, he comes to Matteroo. It's MatterO. God's above it.
No.
And this is where he will serve from the time he comes until he retires in 1845. And so he's got a growing family during that time, and so we'll explore that. And so when we went and saw it, we got inside, and there were two major singers basically doing opera. And so it was a packed house. But it was really neat to sit there and have something joyful going on. Now, I met, this is not a good picture of Eva, but Eva and her son, Bill, I thought that was neat. I didn't realize that. I had corresponded with her because I had given my Swedish ancestry, I'd sent that to the genealogist in Sweden. And so she contacted me by email, and she is related to me through Sven's wife, Johanna Tuffel's daughter. And so she's a descendant of his wife, and so she's a fourth cousin too. And we just communicated just last month. Her son, Bill, here, who's a very young man, is a young man here. He just had a daughter. Son. He had a son. And so she's a grandmother for the first time. And so she got in touch with her cousin, Carl Axelson, and his wife, Yvonne. And those will be the two big players for me. This is Gertrude. Gertrude, I think. Yeah, this is Gertrude. It was very nice. We had a nice visit with her. Unfortunately, she passed away recently. And her son had been many places outside of Sweden. So he spoke English very well. They felt uncomfortable speaking English, but as we went along, they got more comfortable. And I tried not to speak Swedish because I don't know how. But the first night, this is the first night at this table, we had, well, actually more. I think there were maybe 15 people that came to see us, but we had 9 of them join us for dinner. And so I saw a lot of cousins. I just never, never expected that. And it's just wonderful to have that experience. Oops, I almost gone too far. Well, I should stay back here. So this is Carl Axelson, and he goes by Collie. That's his name. So Collie, which is really a nice gentleman. This is his farm property. I think at this point he doesn't farm anymore, but he rents out. And so this is the back of so this is the way in to the house in the back, and then this is the frontage on the road of the house. And as you can see, this barn buildings here, really, very tidy. And then we had, we had Collie and Eva, and we had some other family members. This is one of his Collie's brothers, that brother that we had met the night before, a couple days before. And we had a nice lunch there, and really just, and they took us to a lot of churches, which is what I wanted, and they really enjoyed it too. They never looked forward to doing that. And here is the back of Eva's house. The front has, was sort of like a narrow street and whatever, and so I really didn't get to see a good angle for photographs, so I didn't photograph the front of the house. And this was lunch, and do you remember what it was?
Yeah, it was a loaf of bread that was sliced, and there were different fillings in it, and then cream cheese all over it. And the pink you see on top is smoked salmon. And then the cake on the left is called a spitacaka. And what it is it's a spit, and they put the dough, as the spit's turning, the dough goes around it. And it's really...
it's hollow.
It's hollow, and it's almost like a meringue in a way.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But that's a specialty
It
there.
looks delicious.
It was good. She served it with, I think she served it with strawberries. So,
Oh,
yeah, if I'm remembering right.
We have a lot of processed food in the United States.
oh, yeah.
Their stuff is just wonderful. We went to Ewalt, a town in Sweden, and we went to Little Mexico.
I think that was the name of it.
Yeah, Little Mexico.
It was raining. It was pouring.
Oh,
And so from our hotel, it was the closest restaurant.
yeah.
And
what was great, I mean, it was interesting. Her
she was
grandparents.
Swedish.
Well, her grandparents had come to Sweden
Oh.
and then went back to Mexico at some point.
Oh,
And they came to basically her husband had been on, with SAS, the Swedish airline, but he wanted to be a chef. And so they, he quit that, and they put this little place together, and it was the freshest Mexican
Oh my
food
gosh,
I've
it was so
ever
good.
had. It's just-
Was it actual Mexican food?
Oh, yeah.
Was it
Oh,
really?
yeah.
was.
They
I mean,
made their
this
own
is-
tortillas.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is just
It was
brilliant.
wonderful.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. Now, we did, when we left them, we did some other things. We went to Mayho. But then we spent 5 days in Uppsala, which is a university town. And they had cranes all over the city. I mean, and so it's a burgeoning place. And we spent 5 days with Anders and Ann. And he was a SAS pilot. And of course, when COVID hit, he was sort of, held out, basically. And then it was time for him to retire, basically on their schedule that he would retire. And so he's retired now. And so this is their house. They added a second floor to it. So they had it when it just had that. And it has a 2-car garage, but a lot of cars are parked around it. And so we had a crawfish
Oh.
party. And I'd never had crawfish before because I'm not from Louisiana. But
Southern
it was
boy.
enjoyable. They had 3 daughters, and they had 2 boyfriends at the table. The youngest daughter was a sophomore in high school at the time we visited, but she's graduated now. And the one couple, there was a man that was going to become a doctor, and she's a nurse. And they married a couple of years ago. So we've had a great time with the family. They took us to some wonderful places up in Uppsala, and we went to a castle complex that was south of Uppsala and north of Stockholm, and we just had a great time with them.
Now, these were relatives of yours?
Yes, should say that Anne is descended from a brother of Swin.
Okay.
And so I got it on, so I hit both sides.
Oh.
And now we get into, if you're going to do Swedish genealogy, things that you're going to see words that are familiar and used in English. Hello. And as I said, there's 3 extra vowels, and they will be, strong with that, and they will be softer in the small part here. And so they have 20, we have 24, they got 27. And the first thing I should say here is that you need to do this for Swedish. And if you're looking at any other country that your people are coming from, you should look for a book like this, because there are a number out there. I just had a contact with a relative that there was a young man that has a young family, and I know that line has Norwegian in his line besides being related to me. And I said, you just got to get a book like that. And so I sent him an email with the book that I found that was Norwegian. it just is so helpful. And so I would recommend that. The other thing is, there is an immigration center, and this is Swedish immigration, at Augustana, which is a university in Rock Island, Illinois. And so it's related to the, Augustana is, it was a religious college and basically, Lutheran. And so it has that background. But it has a lot of information. It's a good place to look for information. They have links, just go into that and you'll have plenty of links about the different things you can find. They do, and I continue to be a member of the Swenson Center, and they have a Swedish journal that is printed, and so I get the new volumes that they have. Now, since I did that, since I started, and I just started this after I became retired, so I started about 10 years ago doing this. This is really what you should use. And they had moved the things that they had blogs on into videos. And so they're free for you to use on YouTube. Archive Digital videos will take you through the church books and other things. And they'll do a good job of showing you what you can use and how you can use it. The only thing is and it's not very expensive, but if you want it real cheap and you're willing to, with the information you get from the videos, you can, for free, go to the National Archives in Sweden. And they have the same things. I just think that Archive Digital has so much, I think it's harder to use the archives because you've got no sense of where you're at or whatever. But the Archive Digital has wonderful, and I'm going to we're going to pull that out in a few minutes. So you've got that. So I'll introduce you to a couple of words here because this will be important in what material we have online. Up until 1991, they had what would be, we call the states or counties, either way you want to think, because Sweden's a smaller place, in lands. And so Johannes comes from Kristianstad and land, and the parish of Matterud. Sophia comes from Kalmar, and I'll show you where those are in a minute here. But so that's that, and then this is the word for church. And then, as we talked about when I showed you the books, this is the birth and baptism. And then there's two different words for marriage. And I don't know what the difference is, but you'll see one or the other in anything. And of course, this is the death and burial books. But then here's what makes it really special. Here, there's two terms for this. This is for Samling book is like parish, and the other one is, more of I mean, it's basically the same thing, but it has, it comes with a different term that I don't remember. But here's the other, so these are the two things that really make it interesting, is that they kept track of who was coming in to each parish and when they left and where they were going. And so there's a lot of, so basically, if I find the birth of a child that I want to look at, I can go from there and go back, or I can go down the family and keep watching, just getting the records later and later. And you can, it's just a wonderful system.
Now you're in Sweden.
It sounded everything.
I put it out there that it should have allowed me into it. I thought I'd done that. But those records, so basically, I would suggest, if you have Swedish background, go to YouTube and pick it up. It's just, you'll get a lot of information. This thing goes into the church did not, they didn't make the Lutheran Church stayed a state church until the early 1900s. And so they got the records. The other thing I didn't get to tell you about is the census records. And the census records started in 1940. And unlike us, who now it's 1950, we finally got to the barrier, and I'm still not in the census records. I'm not that old yet. But in Sweden, the census records are available up to 1990.
Wow.
So basically, it allowed, if I know the name and I know the date of birth,
Nice.
you can look at any record you want to in between, so you can find out a lot of information about more people. It's just an amazing system, and they're adding to it, and so I'll stop with that. Are there any questions?
Terrific.
Do they still use that naming system? Do they still use that patronymic naming system? Do they still use the patronymic naming system?
No, that switched, and it's really a case-by-case basis. I will see in the late 1800s that some will do that, continue to do it that way, but after 1900, they pretty much have moved on to stay in the family name.
Did at some point in the past you have someone with the first name Ewalt? How did
Didn't
Ewalt?
finish that story.
Yeah, how did Ewalt? I was
Yep,
curious
yep.
to.
Okay, well, he first served as a soldier
Okay.
in his home parish, but then he went elsewhere. And when he became a soldier, because his three older brothers had been soldiers, they all were given. The three brothers were all given the last name of Mauer, M-A-U-R. but for some reason, they gave him, when he joined, they made him an Eagle, an E-V-A-L-D.
Did they just pull those numbers out of a hat?
The Army gave him his
Yeah,
name?
and there's a reason they did that. So you got all these Ericssons, you got Petersons, you got,
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
you got all those guys, you know, hey, Peter, I want this, I want a Peterson.
Okay.
And you have 5 or
You're
10.
gonna get 10, you're gonna have 15 people,
Oh, well.
you know, coming up.
Okay.
So they give them soldier names. And most soldiers, I can't say all of them, because I haven't seen that many records, but I would say most of them, that was their name, that's what they kept. And
Oh.
I've seen Wall, is one name that I remember that I saw. And I saw several others,
Yeah.
but that Wall stood out to me. So,
Oh.
I mean, basic, and it's really more like a German name.
Yeah.
I mean, but you gotta remember, Sweden at its height had properties along the South Baltic Sea. And
Okay.
so they had, basically had for a time, you know.
That German influence that, okay,
Yeah.
interesting.
So, and Johannes, John, actually, he tried to be a farmer for a while, but then he went into the military, and when he was done with his enlistment tour, that's why he came in 1870. Because I saw the record that he came, he'd been serving in this particular place at that time in the Army, and then he came home, and it was only days later that he just, he's heading off. So he's seen the folks, and he's heading off to America.
So at that point, had he just, once the Ewalt name came in, they just kind of all assumed that? Is that kind of just kind of flowed through the brothers and sisters? Is that,
Yeah, I mean, that's, I
Okay.
mean, and I, got several generations back that
Yeah.
I followed,
interesting? It's interesting.
so.
Well, Bill, this has been amazing. Thank you. It's Swedish information that we had no idea that you could go and get, and
Yeah,
thanks for the, it's
We've got some things.
yeah.
yeah,
just
I
going
got,
over there.
just mentioned here, through Augustana, I've gotten a number of books that are Swedish in nature, they're in English.
Mhm.
And we took with us this book to help us out when we toured. It's basically a picture book with, music and everything else, so you knew what the word was.
Translation, dictionary.
Translation, yeah.
Yeah.
And it had pictures, so.
Yeah, you point to it going,
Right.
And I bought this one
Oh.
because Collie told me that was a book that he read as a kid, and it's in Swedish. And so I tried to get there, but I'm not quite there yet.
oh,
It was published in 1904,
oh my goodness.
and it's about a boy. You see the boy on the back
Oh,
of a goose,
Yeah,
and it's a story about his travels around
okay.
Sweden. So
Aw.
it's a young adult book,
Yeah.
probably, or child's.
Well, and we went into the town where Pippi Longstocking was.
Oh,
We didn't go to the.
Okay. I read those books.
Yeah, I did too.
Yeah, so.
Astrid Lindgren.
I know where that was, and that was actually near some of where my relatives, when I
Interesting.
talk about a bigger tree,
Yeah.
they were in that area too.
Oh.
But,
Now, what is the cross with the little wreath things on it? What the?
For May,
It's,
midsummer. It's for
Midsummer
midsummer.
is a big holiday. I mean, it's their
oh, okay,
their 4th of July.
Yeah.
okay.
Basically, our first trip over, we were in Stockholm, and things shut down. Because
Really?
Everybody goes out to the coast or to their families
Oh,
and
It
have
looked
these
like
big.
wreaths, I thought maybe it had
They
something
are
to do with
wreaths.
Christmas. It's,
Uh-huh.
you know,
Yeah.
but it's not Christmas,
it's
it's
more
not.
like a maple,
Okay.
Maypole, yeah.
Yeah.
Ah.
so that's fabulous. And we didn't get any Dalla horses, but I suppose.
I
we
got a
better-
Did you notice I put a Dalla horse on the agenda?
I saw that.
I know. I had, they had Swedish trolls and I had that, and he said, Dalla horses are what's really it. I went back and changed it to a Dalla horse.
Yeah.
Oh, is there any other questions?